Hey y'all, this is your girl Angie, and it is evening time that I'm sending this recording, but y'all gotta forgive me. Better late than never. So I'm not gonna hold y'all. So I got something on my mind that I would like to briefly mention. And I'll do a part 2 video to follow up on this too. I don't want to get so wordy and so long-winded, but I'll just give you the main stuff that I got to say. And this was on my mind for like the past week or so, and I just thought that I'll share it with you all because I really want to get y'all thoughts on stuff. I really do want to get y'all input. So it just occurred to me that it feels like my mother's generation, I feel like a lot of them in that baby boomer era, I feel like they're messing up the black wealth. I feel like some of them are messing up black wealth. Like, I don't know, and maybe because I know people, like, friends of family of friends, and I know in my own personal situation, but it feels like a lot of them are not responsible. And then when I'm sitting there looking at home ownership, for me, I take home ownership very seriously because, for one, my husband is in that industry, and for two, I help counsel a lot of clients that are aspiring to be homeowners. So I think that I care about it, but I also want to shed some context on some certain things, not I don't want people to get a house and feel like they're entitled to get a home because they're inheriting a home. Like, I really want people to get homes that are going to be responsible individuals. And it just seems to me that, there's some black wealth scattered about that even I didn't even know about. So it seems like there's a little bit more black wealth than we want to give ourselves credit for, because I just found out there were about 3-4 houses in the family that I didn't realize it at the time. But it just seemed to me that the family members, they're either going to sell the house, they don't keep it up well, so it becomes blighted, or people fight or inquiring about a property and want to fight over it and just want it because they want it. And I'm like, wait a minute. How are we fighting over something that you don't even, how are we feeling entitled when you never even had a house before? These are just some indicators that I'm thinking about lately. And it just seems like a lot of people in my mom's generation, who are hitting retirement, who are just retired, these people had family houses, but they screwed up big time. They let it go for whatever reason. So my thing was, so when your great-great-grandparents or my great-great-grandparents or your grandparents, when they first got the house, and I had to pull up stats about this because I wanted to make sure I get my generations correct. So my grandma would be in the post-war. So that means Tucson, bye. Okay, sorry, that's my dog. So that means my grandma would be at the post-war. So that was not too long after the Great Depression. And then there's my grandmother that's in the boomers, and my mom is in the baby boomers generation. So when my great grandmother, when she decided to get the house, and at the time in the 1940s, we all know what it was like with black families, and when they're talking about black wealth and home ownership. How did they get the knowledge? And how did they pass on the knowledge to my grandmother? And how did she pass on her knowledge to my mom, to my mother? And that's the thing. And it's communication is very big, especially when you're talking about financial literacy. How are we just getting these houses and we're not educating people, and we're not showing them what goes into having a house? And this is somebody, I'm 34, about to be 35. So I had several houses. So I know what it takes to go into home ownership. I counsel, I want people to have home ownership, but I want them to have it in a very responsible way. And I think that some people don't need to have houses at this point. Not until they go down what I feel like a certain a criteria in order for them to be ready for it. Like anytime when you're young, I'll take a step back. Because my husband, he works with a lot of younger homeowners, and I've seen a lot of people are in their 20s want to have a home, and I love that for them. But they have parents that are there backing them up, help guiding them and help coaching them. So I have to wonder, how did my grandmother's generation, how did you come to know and find out about home ownership? Like, what was their process, and what did they do to try to keep the Black wealth within the family alive? Because what it just seems like to me is that when you leave property, it's kind of like you don't really leave it to where long term it'll stay in the family, it'll be kept up well. It's just like we let everybody decide and make a decision about something, and then nobody comes to a decision. Everybody is ready to fight, kill, steal, and argue just to get their way. And it's like, we're not doing a good job at making sure that our wishes is carried out. Like, I know getting a home was a big deal for my great grandparents. So it's like, what is the disconnect? I'm trying to understand, where did we go wrong in this? Now, I know I'm getting around all over the place, but I promise I'll be ending what I have to say in another minute. So as a younger homeowner that started out in her mid 20s, maybe 24, maybe 25, I think. And I didn't think I was ready to have a home, because I felt that, having a home, it was a very big responsibility. And, you usually wait until you're a little bit older so you can handle something like that, of that magnitude, right? So I'm thinking you're probably 35 or something like that, close to hitting towards 40, when you're a little bit more older, you got a little bit more money, a little bit more life experience before you get a house, right? So my husband felt like we were ready at the time in my early 20s, and trust me, it was a lot, scraping a couple of little dollars in order to get our home. But we managed to get something that was small. It was perfect for us. We were able to grow into that and eventually move on to something else bigger and better over time. So I looked at these stats right here about the home ownership for first-time homeowners in the stats. So they have here, and I'm pulling up this on my other phone. They have the average American are 36 as of 2022, 36 years old. And before 22, in 2021, they have the average age was 33. So that's about in the average range that I was thinking originally when I first thought about home ownership and what age I would be if I were to purchase a home. So, but you see people are younger trying to get homes. And I think it's a little bit better too, when you're at a younger age, because that means when you're young, you're just really starting out, you're really learning responsibility. And yes, I think that the sooner you get into home ownership, the sooner, the less of life has to happen for you. If you're at 35 or whatever, you have not only, you make more money, you've been able to save some money, but you have more life happen. You may have more and more debt. You may increase your lifestyle. So you got a little bit more life happening versus if you stop it when you're young, then you can just learn to slowly approach those things, but you have an asset that is able to appreciate versus in order for you to get a house, you got to clean up all this credit, clean up your credit score, all this craziness. But yeah, so to my point, it just feels like that my mom, because I noticed a lot of the houses that we do have, I noticed that only very few keeping them up, and the ones that don't, they're going to shit, for real. And it's like, man, you can't teach your kids anything because you haven't been able to, or they're learning their lesson from you and decide I don't want to be that way. Like, I'm just trying to figure out, like, when it comes to family property and when someone passes over, that you, like, it really does bring out the ugliness. It really does bring out the ugliness in people, because they trying to fight for something that, like, they never had to do. Like, if you never had a home, why the hell are you fighting so hard about something that you couldn't even get on your own? You had to wait to get inherited a piece of property. And then when you get it, like, I know for certain that you ain't attend no form of financial literacy class. Like, I know for sure, like, your personal finances ain't hitting like it needs to. And yes, there are indicators. Like, if you never had a house, especially like my mom, like, she's 60, whatever. So you, like, if you're at that retirement age and you never had a house, bro, like, at this point, I know that you're not going to be responsible, because you don't even know what goes on to have a house. At the minimum, maybe rent out a house and you can kind of see that. But I just think that at a certain point, if you see that people ain't doing what they're supposed to do, they're not meeting your expectations, then you have to look at people who you feel like that are going to be responsible enough to be able to carry the burden. Because especially, like, I'll be damned, like, if I have property and I got kids that they're not doing nothing they're supposed to do, like, you think I'm going to leave them with something of that magnitude? And I have heard that people, like family, like, when they got the money, they're not, I mean, got property or got assets, like, they're not managing them well. They're just like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you gotta work with people that are more responsible. And I understand, like, we have this allegiance to blood, or we have this allegiance to leave our kids something. No. If your kids are not being responsible, then you gotta look within your family dynamic to say, who would be the best person to have this? Who could carry out my wish? But no, we're so into this, I don't want to offend anybody. I want to do what's right because I want to do right by my kids. Like, but if your kids don't think much of themselves, so invest in themselves and get themselves together, what does inheriting anything will do for them that they have not been practicing all this time? Man, I don't even want to get on a little soapbox, because I know we're hitting at the 13-minute mark. And this is just like my part one. Like, I will provide y'all like a part two to go like further in depth to just like tie this all up in a bow. So thank y'all for watching this late rant of mine. If you haven't, I'm sorry, if you haven't already subscribed, like my channel, please do hit the bell notification button so you can hear other different types of topics that I've been really thinking about. So yeah, y'all peace out. Y'all have a good evening. I'm about to go cook some food, okay, for my husband and for lunch this week. So y'all have a good evening. Bye.